What is up, future home sellers? I'm Chris, this is Johnny. We are your real estate gurus for this video. We are with Rise Real Estate in Los Angeles. And let's get into all things real estate. What are we talking about today, Johnny?
Today we are talking about the burning question of, do I have to pay for the buyer's closing costs in this market?
Or at Burning Man.
No.
All right, so let's kick it off by understanding what buyer's closing costs actually means. It's not some fancy code to trick you into paying fees. It's just a way of encapsulating all of the fees and different costs you as a buyer would incur when going through the transaction.
Yeah, so really all that is from loan fees to appraisal fees. It's kind of like navigating a roadmap. So that's what we're here for, to talk about the specifics of this. But here's the catch. In Los Angeles, sellers don't often have to pay for the buyer's closing costs. And let's talk a little bit about why.
So here's why. In Los Angeles, you're currently in a market in which there's more sellers than there are buyers, right? So often sellers will look for buyers that are willing to say up front, hey, I'm not looking to take any kind of credit back. Now, that doesn't always mean they won't. It's all about negotiation. So having a good negotiator doesn't mean someone who comes in and just demands things. It's someone who understands the process and where we're at in the process and utilizes those things to leverage your position as best as possible on when to ask for those funds. So there's certain times in the transaction when it's better to ask for funds and certain times when it's not good to ask for funds. And knowing the difference can often mean the difference between actually getting some credit to cover those costs and not.
Yeah, negotiations like Monopoly can be a little playful sometimes. Sometimes there's some give and take and hey, you give me this, I'll give you that. But there's not really a standard rule of what's going to happen in each real estate transaction.
Other than always ask for boardwalk.
Yes.
Yeah. So for sellers, one of the things that can help with making sure your costs don't get too high is making sure you set a competitive asking price. Setting a competitive asking price helps you get the most for your house, which helps cover your costs.
Yeah, so a lot of that it's a little bit like hedging your bets. If you go way above the typical listing price for your home, there might be more credits that the buyer is going to ask for. And if you go a little bit lower, there might be less. And there's not a standard rule for this. Everything is going to be a case-by-case basis. But setting the right price as your starting point can help a lot in reducing those costs.
The real estate market is like a dynamic ecosystem. If you're in a seller's market, it's different than a buyer's market. And even those terms can vary on what people really mean. But here's what it means in Los Angeles currently. Right now, there's more sellers than buyers, which would often mean it's a seller's market. And what that really feels like is you as a seller have more control at the beginning when you're first taking offers to really make sure the deal is structured the way you need it to be structured. And then once you're in escrow, it shifts a little bit and the buyer has a little bit more power because it's much easier for the buyer to pull out of the deal than the seller. So it's really important that you have a good agent that understands how to structure the deal before you ever get into escrow so that you know the deal is structured in a way that benefits you. And if the buyer comes back to ask for credits or things of that nature, you're set up well for that. If you get into a bad scenario to start, you might end up somewhere where you still need to sell and the buyer gets a little more leverage on you than you would like because you didn't do a good enough job at the beginning to position yourself well.
Yeah, it's a little bit like predicting the weather. In a seller's market, it's sunny, so you get to dictate the terms a little bit more.
In a buyer's market, it's a pouring down of rain and everybody's sad all the time.
I guess in this metaphor, everyone has different weather.
Now, in all of this, there is a secret weapon. You know what it is? It's your realtor. The realtor is someone who is an expert in not just the contracts, but the current market ecosystem and knows how to leverage both those things together to both protect you and get you the most, while also getting you the terms that facilitate you getting what you need as far as staying in your home, where you need to go next, if you have a 1031 exchange, the different propositions you might be using legally. All these items need to be combined in how that agreement is structured. And your realtor, as long as you have a good one, is who does all of that for you.
Yeah, it's all part of that negotiation. You want to make sure that your realtor is a good negotiator. They're like your Jedi Knight.
For example, I negotiated never paying Johnny a cent.
Wait, what?
So there you go. That's the scoop on buyers' closing costs. Just remember this, in the current market in Los Angeles, it's not standard for sellers to cover buyers' closing costs.
Yeah, so don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the little notification bell. If there's anything else you're wondering about real estate, let us know in the comments. We'll make a video about it and talk about your specific situation. We'd love to help.
Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Peace.